This program is brought to you by Emory University.
What would you say are the similarities and differences between two responses and two, in many respects, successful responses to economic growth? How are India, China similar, and how are they different?
Well, the difference, Paul, is dramatic. That India is a bottom-up success. China is a top-down success. India is a success of the people, despite the state.
Right.
And China is a success because of the state. An amazing technocratic elite in the last 3 decades has built the sort of infrastructure that we've never seen done so quickly in human history. This is not accidental. In fact, the fact is, India has always been a weak state, and China has always been a strong state. But India has always been a strong society, and China has always been a weak society. So the history of India has been a history of disunity, of kingdoms competing with each other. And China is a history of empires. In fact, in Indian history, we had 4 empires. And neither lasted all that much. Each one was about 150 years or so. But each Indian empire was weaker than the weakest Chinese empire, whether you talk about the Mauryas, Guptas, Mughals, or the British.
Yes.
And so the fact of the matter is that it's the temperament of the country. The king in India, from the beginning, was bounded that in China, the king gave the law and then he interpreted the law. In India, the law or dharma was prior to the king, and the king's job was to uphold dharma. And the interpreter of the law was the Brahmin, not the king. So very early on, you had very sort of a liberal division of powers that was created in Indian history, which has continued till today. In China, the king owned the property.
Yes.
In India, from the beginning, there was a rule called Shat Bhagan, meaning 1/6.
Yes.
The king's share was 1/6, and this was contingent on his giving you security and infrastructure. And the king who did not do that was condemned. But the point here is that there were early on constraints on the king's power. And the king was always a distant figure in Indian history. The Indian was defined by society, the village, the caste, the family. And the Chinese was defined by the state. By the state. And so oppression in India never came from the state. We never had the kind of state that you found in China, where the state could penetrate the society and divest it of all rights and property. So it was, it was not an Oriental despotism, in other words, which is a mistake the English made when they arrived in India, or even Marx made. So the point I'm making is that really in 1947, when India became independent, it could only have been a democracy.
Right.
It could not have been ruled, this highly diverse, pluralistic society could only have been ruled as a democracy. The fact is that Indian society is the one which one would call as accumulating society. That migrations came into India, and we accumulated the people, and so each one was called a subcaste in this net where they got caught. And in China, they also had migrations, but those migrants were absorbed, assimilated into one Han Chinese nationality. So you have a country which is an accumulating country and assimilating country. Now the fact is you need both. You need a strong state and you need a strong society. China needs a stronger society to give accountability.
Yes.
Now we may have too much accountability.
Right.
And that accountability does weaken the state.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.